Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Metaphysical Bible Hangout. This is the Thursday night Bible study for Up Church based in Los Angeles. I'm Reverend Sherri James, Senior Minister of Up Church, and I am really excited to be here. We're in the midst of an incredible text. We're working with Neville Goddard, the Neville Reader, and specifically the book entitled Prayer, the Art of Believing. And we said this last week, did we even know that prayer was an art form? Even to think of prayer in those terms is different. Like if you think of art, you think of martial arts, yeah, right? Uh, Fine art, performance art, but certainly I never put prayer in that category. And so tonight we deal with another skill, and the way he presents it is that prayer requires a set of skills, and that if you master these skills, then you master the art of prayer. And so last week we talked about um, uh, controlled imagination, controlling the imagination. Tonight we're going to talk about faith or believing without evidence. So really excited about that. Let me get the PowerPoint. I tried to add animation to the PowerPoint, so you guys let me know in the comments if that was just a bad decision or a good decision. Trying to do something a little different, make it interesting. So, do you know how to believe when there's no evidence? Do you know how to believe when there's no evidence? And the name of this chapter that we're working from is The Dual Nature of Consciousness. The Dual Nature of Consciousness. So, a couple of announcements, opening prayer. Do you know how to believe when there's no evidence? Understand how your consciousness is constructed, and then how to relax your conscious/objective mind, and then Q&A. So we're going to try to make this as practical as possible. I think it's always important to know why you do something. And my life is organized, certainly around Sunday, but very importantly, it's organized around Thursday night. And even when I travel, I make a point to be available for Thursday night because I believe so much in what we're doing. I believe so much in this process of becoming, and I want to see you achieve what is yours to achieve. I think it is just one of the most amazing things that you can experience, and I think it's worth all the tea in China. I am trying to find my blog post. I'm going to go this way. Let's do this. The movie that I always liken this to is, Inception. And this is one of my favorite films because it's built around the idea of, can you deposit an idea in someone's mind in such a way that it touches them so deeply that it shifts everything. And the idea that I'm interested in sharing with you is the idea that you are divine. It is the idea that you are more than just this human expression, but that you are spirit being you. And that once you really latch onto that, it changes everything in your experience. You no longer view life the same. You no longer show up for life the same. And so I'm deeply interested in what that looks like in a world where people really know that they are divine and they're not just human. The Bible Hangout is free, but it does cost. And so if this blesses you, would you consider blessing the Bible Hangout? Any gift that you make makes a difference, and you can do that right at revsherri.com. There's a PayPal button, and you simply follow that. And I say thank you in advance to everyone for any gift that you decide to share. You may not know this, but I work with people privately, one-on-one. One of the things that I do very well is helping you to break through whatever is limiting you from living your complete life. And really what I help you do is to establish a spiritual practice that even once we're done working together will continue to sustain and feed you so that you can then be your own spiritual coach. So if you are interested in seeing what that might look like, send me an email at sherri@revsherri.com, and I would be happy to talk to you about that. The scripture for this series, oh wait, I want to back up. I want to back up before I get to this. I want to announce Lent. We do a major thing for Lent at Up Church. Lent is like my, well, I can't say spiritual Christmas, but it's like my, I don't know, it's as fun as Christmas for me. So every year we choose a text and we do a daily teleclass, which is just fire in the morning. It's from 7 to 7:30. This year, Reverend Sherri will be leading that class. The text that we're working with is May McCarthy's The Path to Wealth. I cannot overstate how incredible this book is. It's a bestseller on Amazon. I strongly recommend it, whether you take the Lenten experience with us or not. But I certainly hope that you will join us. It's going to be amazing. You can register for Lent right on the Up Church website, and I encourage you to do that. And we will mail the kit to you. In the kit, I don't think I have everything here. Um, in the kit, you get the book. Hold on, let me start telling stories here. You get the practice. This is a copy. This the one that you would get is actually bound. You get a 30-day practice journal. You get a practice workbook, and oh my, there's like a whole, like we try to just stuff it full of like good stuff. So I strongly encourage you to jump on this, get involved. The cost to register is $50, and you can register right at the Upchurch website. And it is, again, like I said, it's my favorite thing. It's besides the Bible Hangout, it's like one of my favorite things to do because it's so amazing. It's that, like Alita says, fantabulous. Like every year. And so here's what happens. What happens is like you start and you're like, 40 days. You're like, oh my God, I gotta dial in 40 days, 46 days over Lent. And then you get to day 10 and it's so good to you. You're like, oh my God, I only have 30 days left. Like it becomes addictive. And Reverend Sherri is an incredible anointed teacher and preacher. And I love learning from her and learning with her. And so I know this is going to be an incredible experience, and I look forward to sharing it with you guys. There is a bracelet, but what had happened was it's the Chinese New Year. And so the bracelet is coming. It's just going to get here after the kits are already distributed. So yes, there is a bracelet. So I talked to the factory and they were like, yeah, you can't have them till the end of the month. I'm like, Lynn starts February 14th. They're like, yeah, what had happened was it's the Chinese New Year. So basically they're like scrambling trying to get stuff together because the Chinese New Year is February 16th. And so they're trying to get everything in, like that's already in. And so our order is just, it's going to come after the Chinese New Year. So there you go. There you go. Those Chinese New Years, they get you every time. All right. The scripture for this series. Then he touched their eyes, saying, according to your faith, let it be to you. My prayer is that this class touches your eyes metaphorically and it opens something in you that agrees with your divinity. You already know it's true of you. You already know it at the deepest core of your being. You know you're more than human. But now it's time to live out of that conviction at a deeper level. And so my prayer is that this class does that for you. That it opens something in you, that it excites something in you, about the presence of God in you, and that you walk more boldly, walk with greater authority, and that you are more of God in action than you have ever been before. I thank God for the right words to communicate this information. I thank God for just anointing this class to be a blessing to all those that are assembled here. And I thank you, God, for all the people that this class will reach after we are finished. In the name and nature of Jesus, I allow this prayer to become so. And so it is. And amen. So, do you know how to believe when there is no evidence? That's really what prayer is. Prayer is the art of believing when you can't see, right? That's what prayer is about. It's the art of believing when there's nothing to see. And that's the work, isn't it? You ask for your divine selection, your divine mate, and then it's you are trusting the process that I can ask what I will, and that you will send me something, and that all those false alarms that come along the way don't discourage me and shake my faith, right? The conscious or objective mind takes in information through the five senses and then reasons with that information. It has extreme difficulty believing in something the senses or its reasoning denies. So let me unpack that. The conscious, the conscious mind is what you and I are working with right now. It's what we can see, right? What we can see, taste, feel, smell, and hear. And what happens with the conscious mind is that it takes in its information from those sources, and then it reasons and it works with that information from those sources. And so it has trouble, the conscious mind, it has trouble denying or believing what the five senses and the reasoning that it does denies. So if the five senses say that your divine selection is not here, the person that God intended for you to spend the rest of your life with is not here, the conscious mind has trouble believing that it can be here because the five senses are telling it that it's not. Here, let me know if this is landing. I want to make sure that you guys get this. And where we run into problems is being able to see beyond the physical evidence. And so the art that you're mastering here is the art of faith, the art of seeing without there needing to be physical evidence, the art of experiencing something even before it becomes an actual experience, a present moment experience. So you decide that you have been overweight your whole life, and you want to lose weight. You decide, you know what, I don't want to finish. I've been in this body, but I don't want to finish life in this body this way, right? I want to know what it feels like to be at the peak of health. But you've never been able to stick to a diet before. Nothing in your life has ever supported you before. In terms of like friends, family, all the things that have to really change in order for you to have a different physical experience. And so you start out on the path, and when obstacles come, instead of you being able to see beyond those obstacles, what you see are roadblocks, and the conscious mind is running into problems, believing that you can live life at your ideal weight. You tell yourself you're going to get up to go to the gym, and you don't. You promise yourself that, well, okay, I'll do a bare minimum. I'll at least stretch. You don't do that. I tell you, you tell yourself that you're going to eat better, and you get home from work, and the only thing you can think to do is drive through the fast food place. The conscious mind is looking at all of this evidence, and so it's concluding that weight loss is not possible for you. And that's where we run into problems. And so prayer then becomes the art of seeing beyond all of these obstacles, which in the moment feel very real and often feel insurmountable. Tell me where you guys are at. Is this making sense? Is this landing? Just let me know where you're at so I can get a gauge on what we're working with. Good, clear as mud. Don't make sense at all. Okay, Alita says, yes, I like that. Okay, good, 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 good. All right, so I'm gonna keep going. So what we're gonna what this chapter is called is the dual nature of consciousness, and what we're gonna work with is the structure of the mind. Now, I actually made a little handy chart, and I'll send it to you. I'll put a link for it in the a Google Doc. I'll put a link for it in the show notes. I made a chart of like the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind. In fact, can I do that now while I'm talking to you guys? Yeah, I'm not gonna multitask. So the first thing to know is how your consciousness is constructed. You got to know how your mind is put together. And for Neville, the consciousness should have been consciousness, not conscious. Consciousness has two parts: the conscious mind and the subconscious. Those of you that are in UFBL, you know that we talk about the superconscious mind. And in this example, the subconscious and the superconscious are comprised into one. The subconscious being not just the seat of all emotions, but also being the home of the intuitive nature. And so the way that Neville talks about it, subconscious and superconscious are collapsed. So everything is in there. Everything that ever exists, ever was, is in there, as well as everything that ever could be, all housed for him in the subconscious phase of mind. So of the two parts, the subconscious is greater. It's infinitely greater. And it's the most important part. It is what causes voluntary action. So people think that I'm making decisions, and I feel that way, that sometimes I'm making decisions in the conscious, in the present moment. But in actuality, whatever it is that I do has been predetermined by the subconscious mind. So if there were such thing as predestination, it was predestined because of what's in my subconscious. I'm going to try to look for this document that I want to share with you guys, and I will post the link in the show notes. So in the subconscious, the subconscious is the greater part. I'm looking at some comments. Okay, got it. Everybody's saying so far so good. All right, we're on the same page. Good. Hold on. Finish what you're doing, Sherri. Get the document up. Okay, I'm going to share this document with you guys. It is I just made it as an Excel spreadsheet, but it's a document, and you should be able to pull it up on Google Docs as soon as I get the link. All right, it is now a public document. Control C. Okay, great. All right, so here's the doc that compares conscious versus subconscious. Okay, great. All right, and let me give it to you guys, Ray and Alita. Okay. So Alita says, so the subconscious actually makes our decisions. Yes. If you want to change the way you make decisions, you've got to change what's happening in the subconscious mind, or in what the scripture calls the heart. That's what you've got to change. So you click on that, that'll take you to, I made this, this is not a handy chart, and you can't read my writing. But then you click that link, that will take you to the Google Doc. It is an Excel spreadsheet, and it lays out the subconscious mind against the conscious mind. And again, in Neville's, the word is lexicon, but in Neville's conception, the subconscious and the superconscious are collapsed together. And as I mentioned, those of you in UFBL know that we put those two things together. We don't put those two things together. We have the superconscious phase of mind, the conscious phase of mind, and the subconscious phase of mind. So just so that there's no confusion there. So the subconscious phase of mind for Neville is the father within. You know, in the UFBL, we would say the superconscious is the father within. Just so you following along. The thing about the subconscious is that it reasons deductively, meaning that It is never concerned with whether what it's given is true or false. It just accepts it. It doesn't look, so you give the subconscious mind the feeling of, or that's how you communicate with the subconscious mind. You give the subconscious mind the feeling of being happily married. It is unconcerned with whether or not you're married and whether or not there's anybody in the vicinity that you could marry. It accepts the premise as you present it. The conscious phase of mind, on the other hand, is objective. Now, it's influenced by the subconscious assumption, which is what you just said, Anita, that there are these assumptions in the subconscious mind that we are acting on. And the conscious mind follows the pattern that's given to it by the subconscious. And so it may look like you're making decisions in real time, but in actuality, you're making decisions according to a pattern. You're making decisions according to a pattern. And so there's a range of choices that you could make inside of that pattern, but you never step outside the pattern unless you change the pattern. The conscious mind reasons inductively. It takes information through observation, through experience, through education. So the subconscious is what a person is, present moment, not in the ultimate sense, because ultimately you're spirit, but it is what you are according to the subconscious assumptions you've made. The conscious is what a person knows. The conscious originates premises. So the conscious mind does have the power to suggest the premise. So you can look and say, I want to have wealth. And you can begin to suggest the premise of wealth to the subconscious mind. We're going to talk about how to do that later. And if you do it enough and with the feeling, the subconscious mind will accept it. And then it follows it out to logical conclusion based on the fact that it does not care whether or not it's true or false. Neville has a thing that he says often in a number of recordings that I listened to. He said an assumption, though false, if believed in enough, will harden into fact. So you can start with the premise, or you can start with an assumption that has no basis in truth, and you can hold to it to the exclusion of all outer evidence, and your holding to it will cause it to begin to put flesh on it. This is how healing happens. That you may be having something happening in your body, but you hold to the feeling of what it's going to feel like to you to have complete health expressing through your body. And the ways and means for it to come about will begin to present themselves. And this is why you can't tell someone don't go to a doctor. Sometimes you get that in some New Thought communities, that the belief that, well, you should just be able to heal yourself. You don't need to take medicine. Okay, I'm sorry. God is everywhere evenly present. And so the means for you to live the reality that you desire might involve traveling through a hospital, or it might not. Again, it's according to your consciousness, it's according to your belief system. So you might have a belief system that needs to take you through a hospital experience in order for you to experience total health expressing in your body. Okay, it don't make you any less of a healer. It doesn't make you any less of a healer. You hold to the premise and the subconscious, the Father within is that I of myself can do nothing, right? It's the Father within that does the work. I'm not doing it. I don't know the right way to get this done, but the God in me does. I always say this, people talk about the glass ceiling and they won't let nobody through, and there was a article, a quote unquote think piece, I guess they call it think piece about light skin versus dark skin. And it said, you know what? Someone brown skin has just not held the premise that skin color to the degree that they break through and held the premise You hold the premise. It don't matter what other human beings think. The subconscious mind responds to your impressions on it, not, and then that becomes what's true for you. So it's we believe in these human constructions, and if we could learn to close our minds to this outer evidence, and really sit in the premise of what we want to see come to pass. And that was probably a cryptic thing. There was a Matthew Knowles made a statement in relation to his daughter and some other pop stars in relation to skin color. And then there was a think piece written about it. And again, the for most people, they can't see beyond what the outer evidence shows. And so the breakthrough never comes because they're always making decisions based on what is. And the spirit says, take your attention off of what is and give it to what you want. Give it to what you truly, truly, truly want. Let me know if this is landing. All right, because I read this is. I'm telling you, if we get this, game on. If you control the imagination, and tonight we're going to talk about how to work with faith and how to relax that conscious mind so you can make those suggestions to the subconscious mind. We get this, game on, baby. We planet changing, planet changing. Like that. That's how awesome this is. Okay. The second thing is you got to understand how experience is built. What we are conscious of, what you can see and perceive with your five senses, is constructed out of what you are not conscious of. It's made from what you cannot see. So your subconscious assumptions, another way to say that is your beliefs. But these are assumptions. And the reason I call it assumptions is because you can change them. They're not based in any reality other than that you accepted it. Your subconscious assumptions, excuse me, do not just influence your behavior, they determine the shape and the texture of your objective existence. Every potential exists. Get that. Creation is finished. When God created the world, he created everything and it's finished, but everything is created in potential. So even at the start of the world, because God is consistent and never changes, even at the start of the world, the possibility for manned flight existed. Is this? I hope this is landing. I want this to really, 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 really stick. Even at the beginning of the world, before there were cars, before there were horse and buggies, and there was just put it on your back and walk with it, the possibility for manned flight existed. Every potential already exists. So that means that manned space flight, traveling to distant galaxies, is possible right now. It's in potential. Finding cures for so-called incurable diseases is possible right now. There's a young lady whose work I love. Her name is Hadia Nicole Green, a Dr. Hadia Nicole Green, and she's a professor at Morehouse College, and I believe a physics professor. But anyway, she is on the precipice of developing a treatment for cancer that shrinks cells permanent, tumor cells, cancer cells permanently. She's at the very beginning stages of her research as far as human trials and all of that. But she, having lived through the experience of being raised by her great aunt and her great uncle, both of them succumbed to cancer in different ways. And it got her thinking. And in her thinking, she said, if we can, from space, know that a dime on the ground is face up or face down, how is it that we can't have that kind of accuracy in cancer treatment? You know, when you get treatment for cancer, it's not targeted, although that is a therapy that's coming online, what they call targeted immunotherapy. But in general, when they do chemo, they blast out all the cells, and so it just, the whole body is debilitated. And so she's saying, if we've got this technology that from space we know that a dime on the ground is face up or face down, how is it that we can't have a better accuracy when looking at and diagnosing and treating cancer patients? She said also, if we can, if we can, in a room full of people, thousands even, hundreds of thousands even, ring one cell phone, but not ring all of the cell phones, how is it that we can't have that same degree of accuracy in cancer treatment? And so she realized that nobody had thought of that, or hadn't been asking that question. She thought, maybe this is my thing to solve. And so she began to do that work. And so that's her work is around. The point being is that what she discovered, and why everybody's excited about her work, is that within 2 hours, using nanoparticles, she shrank cancer cells in, I believe, rats, and they stayed shrunken. So all potentialities exist, but it needs a consciousness to come through. Many of you are familiar with some of the work of Leonardo da Vinci, and you know that he was thinking about what it would take for a human being to fly. But he was not yet the consciousness that could allow that possibility to come into expression. So all potentialities exist. All potentialities exist. But only those that are awakened by a subconscious assumption, by a belief, right? So you can just write subconscious assumption equals belief. Only those potentialities that are awakened by a belief become flesh. You've got to sit in the possibility that it could be until the belief in the possibility becomes true for you. And once you believe it, you awaken it out of the realm of potential, and it begins the pathway into physical expression. The subconscious never sleeps. But while you sleep, it releases from the treasure house of eternity the beliefs, the subconscious assumptions that you've impressed upon it through your beliefs. Everything that you believe in as you sleep, your subconscious goes and unlocks the storehouse of God and brings into expression. And so, if nothing else, you got to be mindful of what you give your belief to. Be mindful of what you accept as a belief, for it will find its way into your living experience. That's why one of my, it's like a nails on chalkboard for me. I can't stand there, but for the grace of God go I. And it's like there, but for consciousness go I. If I have the consciousness that allows whatever I'm grateful to not have, then it can be so for me. So there, but for the consciousness, the idea of there, but for the grace of God is that somehow a loving God will put you in a hateful place. And it's just not so. As Tommy would say, Tommy, one of my members and teachers, would say, it ain't so. Yvonne says, call things that be not as though they were until they are. Yes, 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 yes. This is the power that we have. Most people are unaware of how much power they have. They're just flat out unaware. They're walking around thinking of themselves as limited beings. They think a few people have special dispensation and others are crooked, and that's why they have a little extra. And never understanding that they are human dynamos moving through space and time. Human dynamos. So the third thing is you got to unlock God's treasury through prayer, right? Because prayer is the key which unlocks the unlimited or the infinite storehouse. The way you get these potentialities into existence is through prayer. Why? Because the conscious mind won't believe what it can't see. The conscious mind is never going to believe what it can't see. It learns through inductive reasoning. It draws conclusions from observation, experience, and education. So it can't believe beyond what it takes in through the five senses and what it logically reasons about the stuff that it takes in. Now, the subconscious mind learns through deductive reasoning. It don't care whether it's true or not. It is wholly unconcerned with whether something can be done based on what appears. It assumes if you gave me the idea, if you impressed it on the subconscious mind, then it must be true, and I'm going to move as if it can be done. And so what if you want something that's never been done before, or that you're having a hard time believing you can do? That's where prayer comes in. Prayer modifies or completely changes our subconscious assumptions. And we said our subconscious assumptions are our beliefs. And a change of assumption is a change of expression. A new assumption in the subconscious produces a new result. And so you pray to change the belief. You pray to change what you believe. Prayer does not change things. Prayer changes what you believe. Because if it doesn't change what you believe, the things will never change. And so if you're working on weight loss and you're having difficulty sticking with the diet, or you're having difficulty getting yourself to exercise, then your prayer is for a change in belief. Because the underlying subconscious assumption, which is a belief, the underlying subconscious assumption has to change in order to get a different result. You've got to change what's driving the experience. And most times what we're doing is we're changing things in the outer. Well, I'm going to do the keto diet, or I'm going to do the Atkins diet, or I'm going to hire a trainer, or I'm going to get some expensive exercise equipment, and we come up with all these different things. I'm going to join this online group and they're going to help me stay accountable. But if you never change the underlying assumption, if you never get at the belief that's making the experience real, then you're left to show up for life how you've always shown up for life. And the thing is that because the experience is so, I don't know if the word is pervasive. That's not the word I want. But because the experience feels so real and so insurmountable, I think that we don't believe that the belief can change quickly. And I'll tell you what I mean. So, sometimes we can walk through life with shame about something, and that shame can follow us for so long that it can feel like we'll never be free of it. But I am a personal witness that you can work with God, and inside of 7 days or less, it was 7 days for me, inside of 7 days or less, you can be free of something that's been haunting you for decades. It's to just trust that it will work out. And so if you've been struggling with weight, or if you've been struggling with having enough income, or you've been struggling with finding a mate, or whatever it is that you've been struggling with, if you can simply believe that it won't take you a lifetime to figure this out, and that if you earnestly work with God, meaning giving that subconscious phase of mind a new assumption, a new belief, beginning to just sit in a new belief, that in a very short time, that new underlying subconscious assumption, that new underlying belief will begin to produce a new result. It is fundamental law, unchanging law, and you can trust it because it's God. You can trust it because it's God. Eve says, according to Joseph Murphy, your subconscious mind does not argue with you. It accepts what your conscious mind decrees. Yes. The challenge is that the conscious mind often cannot hold a decree counter to what it sees in the outside world. That's the challenge. So, and that's where prayer comes in, because the conscious mind believes what it sees, and it draws conclusions based on what it can draw in from the five senses. And so if you decree something to the subconscious mind that is counter to what the conscious mind accepts, you begin to argue with yourself. And so sometimes affirmations like "I am rich" bring up "you a lie." So, I am wealthy. No, you're not. And because the conscious mind is looking at all the outer evidence, and it's looking at the furniture. It's like, you done had this furniture for 30 years. How you rich? The conscious mind, it has difficulty seeing beyond. And that's why prayer is so important, because prayer is how you get beyond the conscious mind, so that you can decree what you want to the subconscious mind. But he's absolutely right. The subconscious mind is powerless. It doesn't, all it does is says yes and amen. That's it. The subconscious, oh, that's what you want? Yes and amen. It does not concern itself with whether or not it is a right assumption or a false assumption. It just takes it as is. So the thing to get is that prayer is almost entirely about impressing the subconscious mind. It's the art of believing what is denied by the senses. Prayer is the art of believing what is denied by the senses. Prayer is the art of believing that you are in your perfect marriage, even though you haven't dated anybody in 40 years. Prayer is the art of believing that you can live in the body of your choosing, even though no diet has ever worked. Prayer is the art of believing that you can have the resources that you need, even though it looks like nobody's hiring. Prayer is the art of believing that you can follow through on an AA program, even though you have never been able to kick the habit before. Prayer is the art of believing that you can start a business and be successful, even though nobody in your family, in your vicinity has started a business. Prayer is the art of believing what is denied by the senses. And so through prayer, you ignore the condition and give to your subconscious the desired premise: perfect health, unlimited wealth, genuine happiness. You disregard the condition in your finances, and you give to your subconscious a premise that is true for you. There's a quote that I put in the blog from Alfred Lord Tennyson: more things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of. Because the subconscious faithfully executes the premises it accepts, your one job is to pray about a thing until your subconscious accepts that premise as true. So your work is to learn to hold a desired premise until your heart accepts it. Now, I can only tell you what that feels like for me. So this was before I understood the science of all this. This was just Sherri wanted a car. Um, Yvonne says you have mentioned two areas of focus. My two areas of focus: finances and weight. Yes, 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 yes. Good. Well, then this should get you there. So before I knew what I was doing, I was just did whatever the teachers told me to do. And I just started coming to Upchurch. It was like 1997, 1998. And in 1999, Mercedes released a new um, convertible car. Oh my God, this thing was just gorgeous. From the moment I saw it, I was like, that's my car. So I would go at a time I was married, and we had this couple that we socialized with, and we would go test drive. And I felt like it seemed like we went every weekend. And then we would go and walk in the car lot and just peek in the car, like looking at the interior and just like, ooh. And I didn't have any concept of like how I would get this car or whatever. I made it the wallpaper on my computer when we had wallpaper, remember? On computers. Um, I would imagine myself driving in the car when I was coming across. I lived in Studio City, and I'd be coming across Laurel Canyon in my Nissan Stanza, but I'd feel like I was in a Mercedes because I had test driven the car enough. And oh, I bought a keychain that was like the keychain I was going to use when I get my key for my Mercedes. I didn't have no money like to do any of this. I just had this idea in my mind that I wanted this car, and I did one other thing. 1998, summer 1998 was Boule in Chicago, and I bought the license tag for the car. No, it couldn't have been that. It must have been 2000. Anyway, point is, I bought the license tag. It said Alpha Kappa Alpha, and I knew that I was gonna put that on the car, and so I literally had it sitting on the shelf in my closet. And one day I was coming out of my office in 2001, in spring 2001. So the car came out in 99. I'm doing all this dreaming around like 99, 2000. Spring 2001, beginning of May, I come out of my office and I'm walking to my car, and it's just like a feeling like washed over me that said, you're done with this. And from that day until the end of the month, my car arrived. And they used to have this thing where you would order the car and it took 9 months to make it, and they keep you updated. And it was like, it was on the boat from Germany and it's on its way over and it's passing through the Panama Canal. And I literally got a call from the dealer that said, I wanted a blue on blue. Somebody ordered a blue on blue Mercedes and they decided that they didn't want it. Do you want it? Put my hand on it. It'll be here in 2 3 weeks or whatever. But the feeling, it's like it just washed over me. So when you hold a premise long enough, there's a point at which it becomes like concrete in your heart. You become convicted, right? They say faith is the substance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. That you can pray to a point. This is lighthearted prayer because I didn't have an attachment of when this car was coming or anything like that. It was just, I would just keep test driving and keep dreaming about it and keep imagining myself in it. There comes a point where it drops in the heart as a conviction, and then it's just a matter of time. And many other times, things like that I have experienced. And so you can hold a premise. He said, an assumption, though false, a premise, though false, if held persistently, will harden into fact. And so your whole job, your one job, is to hold the premise of what you actually want. What do you want? And begin to sit in the feeling, begin to live in the feeling of the thing that you're asking for, to really get the feel of what it would be like. What's it gonna be like when you have the money that you want? Is it how will your shoulders feel? Because a lot of times with money issues. We carry like the weight of, we may have back problems or shoulder problems. We carry the weight of the world on shoulders, or your back is the sense of not being supported, and you have that just back pain. That how's that gonna feel when that's just gone? You know? Or if weight is an issue, what's it gonna feel like when you can sit in a seat but not plop in a seat? Those who are dealing with weight, you know what I'm talking about. Speaking from experience here. What is it going to feel like to get up and down with ease? And you just begin to sit in that. If you are imagining you're asking God for your husband or your wife or whatever, what is it going to feel like? Valentine's Day is coming up, and usually I have a friend who calls it Singles Awareness Day. But what if you lived this Valentine's Day differently? What if you lived this Valentine's Day as if you had your divine selection? It's so tempting to give the subconscious mind the feeling of what you don't have, because you don't have it. And it feels so real. But what if you practice the art of giving the subconscious what you actually want? Powerful, powerful stuff. Now, I need to say this. You can't afford to gossip. That's just it. You ain't got no time for it. You can't afford negative energy. You can't afford stinking thinking. Not if you intend to change your underlying beliefs. This is why you got to forgive people. I've forgiven you. I ain't got time to carry you over to my subconscious mind. You too heavy. I can't afford to carry you no further than I have carried you. I'm letting you go tonight. Forgiven. Deuces. Leave the streets of my mind, because I need all of this energy available for God. I need all of this energy. I can't have you interfering with what God wants to bring through me. And so I forgive you. Whatever you did, you got away with it. Good. Kudos to you. I forgive you. Now, the fifth thing is you focus on creating the right premise, right? That's how you got to focus on creating the right premise. This is where your time is spent. So you got to have some alone time, because it takes some time to kind of think through this, right? And I don't ever have to be jealous of someone else's blessing. Nobody is having an experience of abundance that I cannot create for myself. So instead of being jealous or resentful or skeptical or judgmental or whatever it is, instead of being any of that, I focus on influencing the subconscious through right belief, feeling, and time. I pay no attention to what anybody else has, other than to witness what can be done through working with God. So I stop hating and I start working on my mind. And so you make a definite daily appointment to practice feeling and believing what you want to see in expression. Now, I have found that timers are my best friend. In fact, I got a new little timer. This is my timer. This is my little timer. And so I literally, and I'm not even, so I have a journal. This is a journal. This is my journal. And I set my little timer. So like, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It depends on how much time I have. And I literally sit and I practice feeling the completion of the thing that I'm working on. And then it goes off and I go on to the next thing. Now, what I do, these are my transitions between projects. I've got a wonderful slew of projects that I've been blessed with, right? They don't all relate to the same thing. Some of them are like in one area, some of them are in another area. And so I work in 25-minute blocks. I set a timer, 25 minutes. The timer goes off, and then I set a timer for 5 minutes, and I just take 5 minutes and sit and dream about what it's going to feel like to have what I'm asking God for. Make a definite daily appointment I'm probably overkill with it. Once a day is good, you know, in the morning and the evening. But honestly, I do it multiple times a day because I'm trying. What is that? I'm trying to have miracles on top of miracles on top of miracles on top of miracles. Alita says I have Echo and Alexa. Yes, 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 yes. This is like my favorite little thing that I got. I just love this little thing. Isn't it cute? The cutest little thing. And then he rings when it's time for him to finish. So definite daily appointment. Put it on your calendar. So listen now. I keep a paper calendar. Right. So I literally have on the calendar those time periods. I'm not leaving this stuff to chance. This is like a definite appointment that I am committed to happening, and it's my time with God. It is, and if I have to, because like you may be in an office kind of setting where you might have to step, you may have to step out and go to the bathroom. That's fine. Go to the bathroom. Whatever you have to do is like make that time because your future depends on it. It's worth you prioritizing it. And so the thing that Neville talks about that I love is that I of myself can do nothing. The Father within me, He doeth the work. It's the subconscious in me. It's the Christ in me. I'm not doing this. I don't know the practical way to bring about the things that I'm asking for, but the Father within me does. And it's the Father within me that does the work once I suggest the premise that I want. And so I put my effort into creating the right premise. And this, like I said, this takes time, right? Here's the part that takes time. It takes time to perfect the feeling in you. So, for example, I have a debt that I am paying off, and this is a debt is a very large number. It's a number that I have run away from, and I just made a personal declaration to myself at the top of the year that I was going to make a consistent payment no matter what. So what I do every morning is I literally set the timer, 5 minutes, and I just sit in the feeling of the debt being paid off. And what I've been focusing on is the feeling that I'm going to feel when I've kept the promise to myself. You know, the way you build self-confidence is you keep promises to yourself because you know that you begin to develop this trust in yourself. And so just every morning sitting in that feeling, every morning sitting in that feeling, sitting in that energy, and feeling what it's going to feel like after that final payment is made, and just the sense of relief and the confidence that's going to come with I kept this promise to myself. I didn't let myself down this time because I've started and stopped with this debt, and that this time I didn't quit. And just sitting with that, and what I know, because this is the law, how the law of belief that governs everything that you do works, is that eventually that feeling becomes a conviction, and then I can move on to the next premise that I want to suggest to the subconscious mind. So, but I spend time. So it has taken a moment to develop the feeling, to begin to put texture around it. So I even see what I'm wearing on the day that I make the last payment, and I'm feeling what it feels like to walk in the bank and make that payment. And I can feel the pavement of the bank garage floor underneath my feet. And I see myself moving in the lobby, and I can picture they do the bank lobby so big, the vastness of the bank lobby of this particular branch. But I'm sitting in the texture of it. I can feel the pen in my hand as I'm writing the check and writing the deposit slip, but I'm feeling all of that. I'm making it as real as I can. I know the time of year based on the schedule that I'm working on, that the last payment will be made. So I'm feeling what the temperature feels like in the air. I'm making it as real as possible. And every morning, because I'm taking my time, and this is why you don't have time for holding on to grudges or being angry with someone or not forgiving someone, is because I need all that energy to put into the premise that I'm trying to suggest, that I am suggesting to the subconscious mind. I can't afford not to forgive you. I can't afford not to let you go. I can't afford not to release you, because that energy that I've got wrapped up in you, I need that. I need that so I can give God the right premise. So what Neville talks about, this is the at the end of the chapter on page 142, he says the subjective mind is controlled completely by suggestion. Ideas are best suggested when the objective mind is partly subjective, that is, when the objective senses are diminished or held in abeyance. So, this partly subjective state can best be described as controlled reverie, wherein the mind is passive but capable of functioning with absorption. So, it's the mind is slowed down, but it's still present enough to absorb information, right? He called it a controlled reverie. Now, I do a couple of things to get to that state. So one, I use music. Music is really, really, really big for me. Really, really important for me for my meditation. I actually work with Christopher Nolan's Time, and I'll tell you why. It's from the film Inception. You know, y'all know it's my favorite movie. From the film Inception, and so you can use a mantra, but what happens is that the subconscious mind is active, and so it's constantly thinking, it's constantly deducing, and constantly reasoning, and constantly just doing stuff, right? And so what a mantra does is that it just gives the subconscious mind something to chew on for a continual period of time. But you can also use something that I call box breathing, right? And so what box breathing is where it's on a 4 count. And the reason I like Christopher Nolan's song is that it's slow enough that I can't mimic the song because it's instrumental. But literally, you breathe in, inhale 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, inhale 2, 3, 4. It's called a box because you're making a box, right? And so what happens with that breathing is that it gives the conscious mind something to focus on. It slows it down. And so and it puts you in this very calm, peaceful state. And it relaxes you, but you're still present. And so once I've moved through that and created that state, then I begin to do what I call my mental rehearsal, where I begin to sit in the feeling of that day in the bank and making that final payment and what that's going to feel like. So I don't just sit down and do the mental rehearsal. I put myself in state, or what Neville calls the controlled reverie, where you slow down. But you could also do that with a mantra. So you could take a mantra that you repeat to yourself. Joseph Murphy suggests, don't say I am rich, I am happy, or all that, because if you're not, the subconscious mind, or the conscious mind, excuse me, is going to start to fight you about that. But you could just take the word wealth, success, wealth, success, and you just begin to say that over and over, and you give that to the conscious mind to chew on, and it just begins to eat those words, if you will. Let me check the comments. Okay. I'm hoping that you guys are getting this and that this is making sense. Um, so again, there are many, many techniques that are out there. I'm just suggesting two, but there are plenty of things. The main thing is that you give the conscious mind something to do. So you either give it a mantra to chew on, or you give it the breath to focus on. But I use the breath in combination with the music, and the song is called Time. I think it's called Time. and Hans Zimmer is the composer. And there's a way that the music progresses, and it's on a 4 count. And so literally I can just breathe with the music going across in that box. And then when I finish, then I set the timer and I begin the um, sitting in the feeling of what it's going to feel like to have what I want, and giving that premise to the subconscious mind, which as Eve's pointed out, is powerless to do anything about what you suggest to it. And so now it's time to do something big. What time will you set your definite daily appointment with God? When can you do it? And be definite. Like don't leave this time that we have together without making a definite commitment. I'm going to do it at 8:15 every morning, or I'm going to get up 10 minutes early and do it, or what is that definite daily appointment? And then what specific technique will you use to relax your objective mind? Will you use a mantra? Will you use music? Will you use breathing or some combination of that? What are you going to do to relax the objective mind? You've got to put the objective mind in what he calls the controlled reverie. Being specific. I'm telling you guys, if we get this, it's game on. And if this webinar helped you, please subscribe and share with a friend. Any questions? Any questions? And Ray, I'm going to try to share what you just shared. Ray said he found a lecture on prayer that Neville gave. I'm going to put it in the other chat. That's from Ray Taylor. Any other questions? Any questions? Anything that wasn't clear? This feels, for me, because this feels so monumental. I mean, literally, I was working with a timer before, but I had a timer online. There was like a digital timer online, and I realized that I wanted something that was a little bit more tactile, where I could see the little owl head turning, and got a bell ringing, and it's, those five senses. Brenda says this information is just awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. Joe says this lesson is right on time for me. I have been in prayer double time this week. Thank you. Yes. Prayer changes you. It doesn't change things, it changes you. And when you change, the stuff changes. Yes. Any other questions? Any other? So next week, we're going to work with imagination and faith. And, there's another short chapter, this is a little bit longer. Page 143 to 147. And this is in the reader. And just to give you something to get excited about, or at least maybe it's just me to get excited about, there's a chapter called Controlled Reverie. So we will cross this bridge again together. This is my dude. I love Neville Goddard. So if you're working with the Neville Reader, this is pages 143 to 147, and it's labeled chapter 17, but in the book, it's actually chapter 3 in the book, Prayer, the Art of Believing. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for an awesome night. Ray says, thank you. Neville has come to live in my soul. Yes. We love Neville. We appreciate him. Thank God for his consciousness and all that we're getting to enjoy from it. All right. Good night, everybody. I will see you guys next week. Take care.